Good morning, good morning, good morning. First beading session for me of 2021. I think I have to say Happy New Year. I don't know how long you carry on doing it before it's too weird. But Happy New Year to you all. And I can see we've got plenty of you online this morning. So good morning, Jan and Camille and Shafika and Dean. I'm doing well, thank you. I've got a bit of a scratchy throat. So I have been doing a lot of recording and stuff and shows over the last couple of weeks. And it's starting to take its toll on the old vocal cords. But apart from that, fine and dandy. Hi, Paula and Diana and Anne and Joy and Tina and Dee and Gwen and Sandra. And I always say this wrong. I am so sorry, but Yomi. I'm really sorry if I pronounced that wrong. That's really unprofessional of me, but I do apologise. But good morning anyway. And Elaine and Francis and Carol and Gillian and Charlotte and Pamela and Karen. Thank you. Happy New Year to you too, Charlotte and Jitty. And Jackie. So good morning, everybody. Sorry, I've got myself a nice cup of coffee here. Keep that voice going. And we've got Kitty as well. Good morning, Kitty. And Joe. So hello to everybody. I hope you had a good festive season and enjoyed the festivities, whatever they were. See, we had a quiet one, but it's nice to be back to work. I had 3 days off, and then I was back on air on the Sunday. So I don't like to get bored. But here we are back again now in the new year. Hopefully I'm going to be doing, so far I've been doing one a week, but some weeks I'll actually be doing 2 a week. So you'll get a double dose of Sarah P. So I do apologise for that. But I'm looking forward to it. And I've sat down with sort of Kitty and Sarah M. And we've gone through lots of projects to bring you and lots of techniques to bring you in 2021. So let's start off at having a look at what we're going to be doing today and basically what I'm going to be showing you. So I can just see everybody saying good morning. Shirley is from Florida in the morning, so 5 a.m. Well, you are very keen. Good morning. So let me just show you what we're going to be looking at today. So I've been playing with waves over Christmas. Okay, and I've been using bugle beads to create waved pieces. Now I'm just going to show you one of these today, and I'll be back to show you a little bit more in the next few weeks. But this is a technique one that I thought would be fun to get you guys thinking about, because waves are really simple to introduce to your work and they're really useful. So it's a really useful technique to learn. You can do something like this where you introduce double sets of waves and you get a beautiful design like that, or you can use the waves to actually contour your piece around your body, so you can actually use it to contour perhaps to a neckline. So you've got it coming down like that into a neckline or over your shoulders or something like that. So I thought it would be fun to take a look at that. So Jackie says, I think your nudie mannequin needs a lovely new outfit to go with the necklace. It does. I think she does, doesn't she? Let me just, so this is what she's looking at over here, my nudie mannequin. So this is from one of the go lives that we did last year. So she does need something to cover her modesty. Perhaps we'll do a little tiny beaded bikini top for her at some point. But so this one, actually, when we do the double, I'm going to come back and show you that another week. Okay, so I just wanted to show you now how it can be used to create a fantastic design like this. But that will be another project. We're actually going to focus today on doing the bigger piece. So Kitty said it would be lovely as a decoration on a necklace on a top. Exactly. Oh, Tina says beaded bra. So yes, and I mean, when you put these things against these pieces against your skin, you can start to see the effect that it has, and the stunning stunning designs that you can create. Now, using these big bugle beads that I've got here, this is the 30mm one. I've also got, I'm going to be playing today with the 20mm one. These are statements. If I just pull down my cardigan, you see how that can suddenly become something absolutely stunning over, like Kitty says, on a piece of clothing. It really becomes a statement piece. Nobody's going to miss this piece of jewellery. So, and I think I'm a big fan of bugle beads. I think they're underrated, definitely. And I've got some here that are twisted. So we've got, these are the 20mm twisted silver lined bugles, which are just gorgeous. And these are the 30mm. Just take those out of the bag. So I've got some 30mm here as well. All right, and they've got the twist in them, and they're silver lined, and they just look stunning. But they are slightly odd in that the twist is inside, so it reflects. It gives a beautiful effect when you move them. It really twinkles. So let's have a quick look. Jackie has the red bungalow beads. I didn't realise how big they were. I originally wanted to do the Russian spiral. May still do it just to see how it looks. I meant to sew it onto a top as a decoration. Yes, yes, Kitty, that would be great. I did guess, Jackie, you meant bugle beads, not bungalow beads. Good old spell check for you there. Right, so let's have a look at the where you can grab your bugles if you want them. So let me just press. Ooh, hang on. There we go. So we are looking at the Totallybeads website. I think I'm just going to call them, Jackie, I'm going to call them bungalow beads for now, because that sounds much more fun than bugle. So this is where you'll find the video tutorials, and here you can see those waves. Somebody spent ages taking out the background on that, haven't they? Because I photographed it on a shelf. Thank you. So in here, this is what we've got. So I've got in front of me the gold and the blue in the 20, and then I've got the silver in the 30mm. So Sue says, I've been waiting for some bugle bead ideas as I've been given a whole load of them. Well, that's absolutely perfect, Sue. So we're going to be working with the bigger ones today. But as I said, I will be coming back and doing smaller bugle beads on another one of these and show you, excuse me, the double twist. Yeah, Jackie's, yay, I've named a new bead. So here we go. These are them, and you do get quite a bit in your pouch. So you know, these big ones, you can make quite a bit. 20 grams goes quite a long way. All right, so let's go back to, yeah, so they do go quite a long way when you've got your little bag. You know, you're going to get quite a lot out of it. But you can combine it as well. So let's just come here. This one I've done a small one. I have these, I bought them for the star, says Joe, so it'd be nice to use them for another project, definitely. So here I've got, I think these are 3mm. These are ones from my stash, but these are 3mm, and I've used two different types of seed beads, or two different colours of seed beads at the top and the bottom. And this one I have used 2x3mm rondelle crystals, because look at that that sort of glitter that you get from those facets. I think it's absolutely beautiful. Now there are at least two, I think there's a third way as well, of actually making your pieces weave like this. One of those methods is to have two different size beads. Okay, so in this part of the curve you would have a smaller bead, and in this part of the curve you would have a longer bead. So you would have a bigger bead, so that it would create this curve. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of that, because it means I've got to have two beads of the same colour. Otherwise you get a portion, if you've got them two different colours like this one, it would actually change colour halfway along. So I'd end up with the bigger bead here, and then I'd have to change colour to a smaller bead. This way, we're not actually, they're the same beads top and bottom. It's actually how we thread them that makes that curve. Okay. And when you're playing with these, it really is an experiment. And I mean, I did this a number of times and then had to take it apart and put it back together again because I misjudged. Crikey, they do look so bright under this light, don't they? With all that sparkle and that twist in it. Yeah, this is, you're certainly going to be able to see that you're wearing these, especially with that silver line twist in there. As I say, I do apologise. my voice is a little gravelly. It's I'm doing my Mariella Frostrop. So I'm going to take these two out of the way. And also, you know, if you are using the same size beads top and bottom, you can do them in different colours. It's up to you. As I said, if I was doing this with two different sized beads, we'd have to change the sizes at the top. And if you haven't got them all in the same colour, then you're a bit stymied. But this is just a different technique which uses the same size beads or crystals at the top and the bottom. So let's have a look. As I said, I've got the 30mm in the white. Look how they just sparkle when I twist them. And then I've got the 20mm in the gold and the blue. And then I have some crystals here. I have some beautiful 2x3 crystals because I really think that crystals look fabulous. But we can also be using seed beads with these if you want to. So I've got a couple of packs of the sort of Toho mixes. So these could work very well with it, or the seed beads as well. And depending on the size of your bugles, you can use 11s. So these that little necklace that I just moved out of the way. Where did I put it? There we go. This one is using size 11 seed beads because these are quite small. And this one uses 11s as well. But with this one, we could get away with using size 8 seed beads. And you'll see the result. You get sort of a kind of a little bit of a lattice effect on it. But look how that waves. So your most important thing is, first of all, to select your seed beads. Sorry, is to select your lovely bugle beads. Then I'm going, once I've picked my colours, I'm going to pick a crystal. So we've got blue here, and I'm going to work with these smaller ones. I'm going to put those really sparkly silver ones away. All right, so now the question is, what shall I do? What shall I do? Oh, I quite like that. I quite like that with the gold and that sort of deep green, because it's nice to have a contrast. But I like using these rondelles because of the sparkle that they add with this sparkle here. So I'm thinking not that one, but we could either do the blue and the white or the gold and the green. So what do we think? Let's take the green out and put those. So I'm auditioning my beads here to have a look and see which ones I think I want to do. So what do we... yes, you could, Carol, alternate the colour of the bugles. I would play with that myself because I think if you go too full on with changing the colours, I think you'll lose the power of the wave. But what would be quite nice is a rainbow effect. So perhaps you do 3 in your first colour, then 3 in your second, then 3 in a third colour, and just have it as a rainbow like that. So we've got gold and green, it looks stunning, and blue with white. Oh dear, golden green, golden green, golden green. I think we're going golden green. Looking at that, we do have some blue and white. So sorry, Francis, and whoever that was. I just saw somebody else vote for blue, Tina. But yes, I think it's going to be the gold and the green. Right. So let me just put these away. The next thing I want to do is look at my thread. Now, the choice of thread is quite important, because with this technique you may sometimes end up seeing little bits of your thread. Okay, so I mean, if I bring this in just there, can you see? A bit too close there maybe. Oh, come on. Just here, there's a little bit of the tan thread that I've used, just showing there. So you do want to think about what colour threads you are using. So I'm going to go for a neutral, and I'm using Superlon. So I'm going to use this one. Am I going to use that one, or am I going to use something a little bit? No, I think that's too brown. White would be too bright. So I'm going to use like this beige one. Okay, we put these other beads out the way, and then I'm going to use a needle. So with these ones, I'm using my big eye, which I've used quite a lot, and you can see it's starting to bend a little bit, but it's okay for now. And then I've also got a slightly shorter big eye needle as well. But it's quite handy for this, because when you're working with these very long ones, you need a needle that's going to go all the way through. So Camille says yellow or gold thread. Yes, I think the gold that I've got there is a little too brown. This is more of a beige. I think that one should work quite nicely. So I've got that. Then I need some of those, and then I need my snippers to open up my crystal. All right, snip the end off there. I was doing this the other day, and when I'm prepping at home, I was doing it in front of the TV. We have a table behind the sofa, and I sit there, and Paul was asleep on the sofa, and I snipped the end of my thing, and he just went, "Did you just throw something at me?" And the very end bead had just shot across the room and bounced off the top of his head. I thought I couldn't do that again if I tried. So now I'm going to get myself a piece of thread. Now we need it to be quite long, so I'm working much longer than I normally would, because normally you have about 18 inches, but I'm going to start off here with like 1.5 meters. Now that sounds like an awful lot, okay, but it's not. Once we get started, you will see, because of these longer bugle beads, we do get through it quite quickly. So let me thread my needle. So we separate out the two sides of the big eye and pop our thread through there. Right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put one of the crystals on the end. And I'm going to come all the way down, but I'm going to leave about 18 inches on the end. Okay, so if I leave 18 inches, because this is going to allow me to weave back through using the same thread, which is one of the reasons why you want it so long, because you're leaving like 0.5 meter hanging off the bottom. So here we go. So you'll see I've got all of this on the end, just hanging off there. Right, so this technique is pretty simple. What we need to be thinking about, and it varies by the size of bugle beads that you use, how many you do before you change direction. Okay, and what I do is I actually have a little practice, because you know, you can take these apart quite quickly and redo it. So, but with this one, the repeat is actually 10. I think it's 10. Hold on. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. No, it's not. It's, this one's 15. So my repeat is 15. And then I turn it the other way. I think this one, my repeat is much smaller, because my bugle beads are much smaller. So my repeat on this one is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. All right. So Lorna says I was pinging jump reeds when I was doing the Christmas chainmail. Yes, yes, it's like, oh, where did that go? And he just went, huh? did you just throw something at me? Because it was actually snoring. So to be fair, I think he deserved it. But right, so the first thing I'm going to do is pick up my bugle bead. All right. So this is my first one, and I'm going to be curving this way, curving towards myself. All right. So the top of the curve, I always want to pick up one crystal and one bugle. All right. And then I'm going to come up through the bottom. So I'm just trying to keep the other end out of my way. Because as I said, this is quite a long thread that we're working with at the moment. So, and there we go. All right, now this bugle bead at the bottom, this crystal at the bottom, I will actually be threading in later. So we leave that for now. And then, so the first stitch looks a little weird, but just, we've already got one on the bottom there. So, Sue says, me too, I kept having to crawl around under the table to retrieve them. And Diane says the same thing, me too. And Tina says, my Hoover loves eating beads. I'm the same with pins, but I got myself a magnet recently. If you looked at my flooring settee, you probably find enough to make a piece of jewellery, says Angela. Yes. So I'm coming out of the top again. So again, I'm going to pick up a crystal and a bugle. And you can see that the position of that crystal at the top there, just bring that in, is pushing those two bugle beads apart. And then I'm going to come up the bottom like this. And pull it tight like that. But now my thread is coming out of that second bugle. So I go back into that crystal and down again to come out the bottom. But I've got to pop a crystal on the bottom. All right, so I go back down into that end one. It does mean that sometimes every other stitch you're going to go through everything twice. Oh, this is the problem with working with a long thread, that it does sometimes tangle. But the nice thing about Superlon, I find, is that it untangles quite easily. Right, so let's pull this back in. Come on. Famous last words. Once you get started, the thing with working with a short strand is you go through, because the bugles are quite long. Why is that not flowing through there properly? Come on. Should pull tight. Right, okay. So there we go. We've got our top two, but now I need to put a I need to put a crystal at the bottom. So the difference between the two is that on the top, the crystal goes on as part of the stitch, but on the bottom, the bugle goes on after the stitch. Sorry, the crystal goes on after the stitch. So let me show you that again. So now I'm coming back again. Right, so on the bottom here, I don't want to add a crystal bead at this point, because if I do, it will do the same thing as the top. It will separate the ends of my two bugles, and I don't want to do that. So when I come out of the bottom of my bugle like that, I'm just picking up a bugle and a crystal and going into the top. So now you can see I need to put a crystal on the bottom after I've sewn on the bugle. So a crystal, there's already a stitch there. So that's going to go over the top. So now I'm coming out the top of that one. I can just see, have you tried putting a nylon over the end of the hoover? That will help stop. Oh, Jane says, have you tried putting a nylon over the end of the hoover? You mean pair of tights? That will help sucking the beads up. That's a good idea because it won't go into your hoover then, will it? So we're coming out the top now. So on the, whenever we're coming out of the top, we pick up one crystal. Let's move those out of the way. One crystal and a bugle, and the bottom end on the first pass round we don't pick up. As you play with this, you will notice that there are basically two ways this is happening. On this one, we will come out here, come out the bottom, and have to go round again to pick up the bottom bugle. But the stitch after that, we will actually come out of the bottom because it alternates. Okay. So just have patience, but remember what you should have on the bottom is you do a stitch on the bottom there, and then you add your seed or your crystal, and this one on the top, your crystal is part of that process. So let's come back down again. Pull that tight. And now looking at this, I have, let's bring that in a bit closer. I have a crystal at the top sitting in between, but you can see there's a crystal going between that one and that one, but there's not a crystal going between that one and that one. So we need to add it. I know this sounds complex, but it's actually not once you get going. It's because of the way it works that one, you have to come out of, you know, now we've added that, we're going to come out of the top. So we have to go through that top crystal again. And then bottom crystal. So at this point you're starting, oh sorry, I just kicked that. We're starting to get that twist, but it will actually get a little bit more pronounced as we go along. So now I'm looking at that and I can see I've got a crystal along the bottom, so we're just going to go and pick up a bugle and a crystal and go into the top. Oh. All right. And come up the bottom. Oh, I've just unthreaded. Bear with, caller. I'm hopefully getting new specs next week. Because I don't know about you. I think I'm going to have to watch this again to get it. Yes, Tina. Basically, there are two controls for this. All right, because one time when you're doing the stitch, you come out, once you've sewn your bugle on, you come out of that one because you're coming this direction. So you come out the bottom and you're ready just to put that crystal in. But the second time you do your stitch, so every other stitch, you automatically come out of the top. All right, so you do crystal, bugle, so we've come out the top of that one, which means we have to go round again to be able to put the bottom crystal on. So we came out to the top of that last one. Right, so we go back through again, and now we're coming out to put the crystal on the bottom. So the last time we finished our stitch coming out of the top, and now you see we're going to finish our stitch coming out of the bottom. So coming out of the bottom, which means crystal, sorry, bugle, crystal. No worries, Tina, that's why we're here. So I've got bugle, crystal. So we're coming out the bottom that time. And as we go into the top, you see we're coming out of the bottom with a ready-made position for that second crystal, because we came out the bottom. But you see now we're coming out of the top. So it's top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom. And just keep looking at what you're doing. So here you should have crystals that you're adding afterwards. So they pull tight. All right, now I'm just going to show you, I'm going to get my other, I'll do a couple more and then I'll show you how it actually starts to look even better. This is why you might want to practice, because the next step, when we do the next step, actually really starts to make it fan like that. I can't believe how bright that looks on the screen. That's amazing. It is amazing in real life too. It is absolutely beautiful. So let's come around, I'll do a couple more. So now I'm coming out of the top, crystal, bugle. When we come out of the bottom, it's bugle, crystal. Because the bottom one is always put on after the stitch. So you see, so it kind of looks like you finished that there because you're coming out of the bottom again, but you've not put that bottom crystal on. And already look how much thread I've got left. That's it. You know, we did 1.5 meters and that's what we've got on there now. So this is why you want to work with a very long thread, because otherwise you just go through the threads with these large bugles very quickly. All right, so I'm just going to put a crystal on there. Camille says you painted your nails the same as the gold bugle. You knew we'd pick that one. Well, actually, for honesty's sake, I painted these about 10 minutes before we went live because I thought, oh, I've not done my nails. And it's just what happened to be in my handbag here at the studio. But yes, I'm perfectly coordinated. It's exactly what I did. Right, so come down and out of the bottom. So because I'm coming out of the bottom now, I'm doing just a bugle and a crystal. I'll keep going until I've run out of this thread. Which is probably just a couple more passes. Well, the thing is as well, you don't have to count anything as you're going. You do want to keep an idea of how many you do in each curve. And if I just show you here, you can tell when you've stopped doing something on a curve, because if we come and look at this, I don't know if I can get you close enough to see it because the camera doesn't Doesn't like these very shiny beads. But here you can see where we've got the doubles, and then there it changes to singles, and that's where the next rotation starts. Please show a thread extension add on to, please. I will do, definitely. We'll do that in a little bit. So they go well together. Kitty says, that looks lovely. I love the colours together. I see. And then Joe has said they go to where you need to design something with those colours. They do look beautiful, don't they? Green and gold. But it's not it's not like an acid green. It's not a really bright green. I think that works really beautifully against the shine of those gold bugles. And I love the twisted, sort of the silver lined and twisted inside. That's inside, so it's smooth on the outside. It's kind of an optical illusion. I keep finding myself looking at them, staring at them, quite thinking that they're actually twisted. So I will show the thread extension, yes. So anyway, let's just, so now I'm coming at the top. I'm going to add, have I done the, yeah, so there's the bottom seed bead has gone on after the effect or crystal. Right, so I'll do this little bit, picking up these. Oh. It's very quiet here today. Right, so I think I'm coming towards the end of my Superlon now. So I'm okay, or my whatever thread you're choosing. So I'm just going to finish this stitch. So I'm going to put that in there. And come down on the bottom and put the final crystal on. Right. So what I'm going to do now is, oh, hang on, got caught. Got a little bit twisted with my needle. Is I'm just going to go back between those crystals and do like a little knot. All right, so let's pull that tight. Pull that knot tight, and that actually pulls it back into the crystal. Elaine says, looks lovely, very art deco. It certainly is, isn't it? Bound to need to do this several times, says Tina. Yes, you are, definitely. So I'm going to go through the next crystal and do the same again. So I'm going to go through and then go back through that loop to make my knot. I do want to make sure I put it on the right side of the crystal because I don't want to have a double on one side. All right, pull that tight. And then I'm going to come back down through the next bugle. Pull that, give it a nice firm pull, and then get in there with my snippers. All right, so there's my first lot. All right, so you can see we used a lot of thread there because these are quite big beads, but we're also going through multiples. So if you only started off with 18 inches, yeah, Tina, she said, would you do the same for any type of thread? That's how I've finished. There you go, Sue. It's because I'm reaching over here and sort of looking over the top, it sort of gets moved like that. So Sue's saying, I really want to straighten your mat. So Sharon, yes, you could use fire line for it as well. Yeah. So actually I've got a smoky fire line, which would probably be quite good. So it's anything that you would normally do bead threading with. So let's come back to this long edge here, this long piece that we left. And I'm going to use my slightly smaller needle now, just because it's a little bit easier to manage. Oh, the first thing I need to do is, you know, I went through that crystal twice to hold it, stop it falling off. I need to do that with my airs. Hang on, let's push that back through. I need to remove that double. Come on, you know you wanna. That was just to hold it in place. Right, so just take that thread. Right, so now it's sort of sitting freely. But what I'm going to do is thread that needle, which I then just dropped on the floor. Oh, and I can't see it now. Where are you? Found it. Yes, Tracy, I do the same for any kind of thread. I knot it and then pull it into the beads and knot it a couple of times. Right, so we've got threaded now. So this one needs to be secured on the bottom there. I'm going to bring that back up. Now what we need to do is, this is kind of a bit wobbly and you can see the thread in between those top crystals. So what we do with the top crystals is, I'm going to pick up a crystal and then I'm going to go through that first crystal and then pick up another crystal, and we're actually putting in a crystal for every other, a crystal in the gap basically. All right, so this is going to firm up the top of the wave. So this is why I wanted this to be longer, because it saves time. It's not long enough to do the whole thing, but let's just see if I've got any more comments there. Camille says be careful. Yes. Right. Ooh, I need some more crystals. Where are we? So you can do this at the end when you've put all of them on, but I think when you're experimenting to see what size, you know, how many you want on your wave, doing it like this means that you can actually gauge how your choice of beads, bugle bead size, and your choice of end beads or crystals are going to affect that wave. So as I said, with smaller seed beads, sorry, with smaller bugle beads, you need less to get a distinct wave. And with these bigger ones, you have more. All right, so then we've got the last crystal. Right, so that's the top edge done. Top of my wave. I'm going to come back down through this bugle here, and then along the bottom we're just going to go through those existing crystals and pull them tight. We're not actually adding any. And there you go. Alison says love watching the gold beads and gold nails. But you see, so through the top of that wave, we've added a crystal in between each one. Could these be made in sections like that and then assembled together? Oh, they certainly could. They certainly could, because you just would thread back through that. I hadn't thought of that. That's very clever. Sorry, that was Tina. I don't know if I just read that out properly. Tina says you can really see it taking shape now. Am I allowed to say your... Alison says, am I allowed to say your nail varnish is fabulous? Thank you. And Tina said, can these be made in sections that can be assembled together? Definitely they could, because then you don't need to count them. Also, what I've done with this one, which I will be coming back to talk to you about making them into doubles like this, is I've done the curve and then I've done some straight. And then I've done another curve. So for this one, I think I did, hang on, I'll have to count them. 2, 5, 10, 15. Yes, I did 15 on a curve, and then I did 5 straight, and then I did another 15. Okay, but we will come back to look at how to do this double one, because obviously this one, it's taken us nearly the whole time to show you that. So what I would do at this point is I would do the same thing to finish off. Now, what you do need to keep an eye on is the direction, which is the front and which is the back. All right, because with this inside curve here, you're doing a stitch and then adding the bead on afterwards. So I don't know if I can get that in close enough, that if you're very eagle-eyed, you can see a little tiny bit of the thread, because that's the first stitch before you put the crystal on. So when you're working on it and you go to do the next bit, you make sure that you're working with the pretty end on the top. Okay, so you will wear that like that. You don't really want to wear it like that unless you've got a thread that very much disappeared. So Tina says, I like to do things when I'm watching TV and do bits. Yes, I'm with you. I like things where I don't have to think too much. So now I'm going to go back and do another knot with this. This was long enough that I could actually do a couple more rounds if I wanted to. But I'm going to come into that crystal next to it and do another knot through the thread, and then go back down into that crystal and then pull that very tight so I can get really close to it. Right, so I've got 2 knots and a long thread buried. So to start a new one, I'll unthread this needle. Get some more. I'm not going to use such a massive piece. Lorna, you keep going out of shot hard. Yes, unfortunately, that's so that I can see that I'm threading the needle, because I can't actually. If you can see, hang on, I'll just show you. Okay, so here is my ring. I don't know if you can quite. No, I can't really show you that, but I'm then having to do this under here or whatever to be able to see what I'm doing, because my varifocals focus at just the wrong point to be able to see what I'm doing. So I have to keep coming over like this to thread my needle. So I do apologise. So let's come back to here. Right, so what I'll do now is I'm looking to see where the stitches are more visible. So the stitches are more visible on that side, which means I want to be working on the other side. So Angela said, sorry, had a phone call, but back again. So now I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, well, you know, I've actually got a crystal on the bottom and a crystal on the top, so it doesn't matter whether I go top down or bottom up. But again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap around. I'll leave a long edge on that other thread here, because I can do the same thing again when I've done more stitching, and do a knot just to hold it. So you see, one knot makes that pretty secure. That's not going to come off. Okay, so what I'll do with this one is this other end, when I've done some more of this, I will use that. Angela said falling apart. Oh, Angela's falling apart. Bless you, Angela. So we all are. Off to try and get new specs later this week, next week rather, because I'm noticing with doing a lot more beading that my eyes aren't what they were. That's the joy of being lucky enough to get older, isn't it? Right, so now I've come out the top and I'm ready to go again. So as you remember, when you're doing the, actually what we'll do now is I'll change direction. I'll change direction of the bugle, because this one we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. I've got to remember that I'm doing 11. If I then want to do a straight section, which I'll do 4 straight, all right, I'm going to pick up a bugle and a crystal and a bugle. All right, so that'll give me a straight section. And you see that's starting to go straight now, straight away. 1, and now I'm going to do a bugle. Oh, actually, no, I've got to go back down because I'm coming out of the, oh, there we go. Crystal, bugle, crystal. So at this point we're doing a crystal in every part of the stitch, whereas in order to do this nice tight bottom on there, we have the bugle, sorry, the crystal added after the stitch. 1. And as you sort of increase these sections, you do really get to see the difference that doing this bit makes on your finished piece. We'll do 3 of those and then we'll change direction. Yeah, I had a lot of fun working this out. Just playing around with bugles, because I think bugles are quite often underrated. But especially these ones with the silver line twist, they're beautiful. So there we go, we've got straight now. I'm just going to come out the bottom, so I'm ready for my next stitch. Three straight ones will be fine. Whatever I decide to do, I do pay attention to it. So I will write down on a little piece of paper how many. Angela says you always need a tight bottom. Yes, I do get into trouble on air sometimes because when I'm talking about quilting and you're using a walking foot, you end up with puckers on your bottom, and nobody wants puckers on their bottom. So I have to be very careful, because that's what we call it, puckers on the bottom. You get puckers on the bottom, it's a phrase. But then everybody starts giggling, and I have to remember that I work with children. Right, so now I'm going to start going in the other way. I want it to curve back up again. So we've done a little bit of we've got a concave curve there. And now I want convex. I think that's the right way around. So now I'm going to be adding in the extra one on the bottom. So we go bugle, sorry, crystal, bugle, and then down. So you'll notice that sometimes you have to go, every other stitch you go through once more, because you've got to go round and back up to add that crystal again. So Tina, I hope that's starting to make sense for you, because adding this crystal on after you finish the stitch pulls it tight at the top. That pulls it tight. See, and that's going to come in, whereas this, when you pull it, is going to sit between those bugle beads like that and separate them. I feel like I need to sellotape down my beading mat, because it's having a little bit of a wonder today. Right, so let's do another one. So we're coming at the top again. So we're going to add a bugle and a crystal. Bugle and a crystal. Jane says, lovely design for earrings. I'll be making this as a set when my craft room gets back to normal. Bless you. Somebody said I like the gin better. Like the gin better? No, I must have missed a comment there, but if it involves gin, then yes, I agree. And then Tina says, it is, you're a fab teacher. Oh, thank you. No, it's just a matter of persevering, because, you know, when you're playing with things like this, can you see there? It's starting to curve back the other way now. So on the bottom there, I want to stick an extra crystal. Come out the top. I'm running out of thread again, so we'll finish that. Oh, I've got a tangle somewhere. There we go. Right, I'll just pop that one and then finish off my thread because I've got a knot in it, so might as well finish that off. Right, so wrap round and go back through the loop. Wrap round and go back through the loop to make a knot. And I'm going to go through crystal. I'll go back down the bottom there, that will be enough. All right. Love the bugle wave. I used to love this, but always had trouble finishing the ends off. Okay, Hazel, do you mean changing? Nice to see you, by the way, Hazel. Thank you for joining us. Do you mean finishing the ends for the project or finishing these threads? Because I hope so. Here we go. I've got back and threaded this. Now, this is the one that had the knot in. This is our starting thread. So now I'm looking at this, and here, this one is a one that's been added on afterwards. So, and then I can see when I'm looking at it, and you will get used to seeing it. So we just thread through that one. But then these ones you can see are the ones with the gaps. These next few are the ones with the gap. So I pick up a crystal. To slot in between, and that's going to make that one curve around even more. I think with the effect it is definitely worth the effort because of the way it looks. I absolutely love it. And once you've done a couple of rounds, you're like, oh, that makes sense. But before you decide how many you want before you change direction, you do need to do this bit because it is deceptive. So you will need to thread those extra crystals on. Right, so when we've got a curve, oh dear, there we go. Pull that and go back down into that crystal. So the bottom of your curve, if you think of this as the top of the wave, because it's higher up and this is the bottom of the curve, you will always just go through those beads and pull that tight. And then you can go back through a couple more as well if you want. But to finish that thread, again, we're going to do the same thing. Pull it tight and then go back. I've got a knot through that one already because that's where I ended. So I'm going to go a couple more on so I don't end up with knots in the same place. Right, so there's a knot. Come back through the loop into another crystal. Hang on, I'm going to have to take this out of shot because I can't quite see it. So just just bear with as I do this, because I can't find the hole. I know it's there. There we go. As I said, old lady eyes. So again, looping, go through that loop and back down into a bugle, so that the ends are hidden in that nice long piece there, and then we come back and snip it off. Now, if you want to make this into a piece of jewellery, there we go. See how straight away that is curving. So this will come round. We've only done 3 of that next curve. So we did the curve and then we did the straight bit. So homeschooling duties call. So miss most of your demo, says Joanne. Yeah, watch back later. Have to go now, says Jane. No worries. So what you can do to finish this is you can use a bugle bead like that. Okay, so take a bugle bead and then put a loop of crystals on the end, for which you could put your jump ring round, or you could continue just with a line of crystals. Come up like this to make a loop, so you would continue around. What does look quite nice is if you do a row like that and then do the loop, so you've got like a full stop and then do the loop and put your jump ring in there. Angela says I've got varifocals and I still look over them to see. Yeah, these are varifocals as well, but they work okay to a certain point, but you know, I'm just accepting it. I'm accepting that I'm nearly 50 and that these things happen, and that's just the way that life is, and I'm lucky to get this far. So there we go. There is our wave. That's a bigger version, so that is with 30mm crystals, and that is with the 30mm bugles, and that is with the 20, and these are all available on the website. So if we just have a look very quickly where you can find all of these. So I've been using these are the larger ones, the 30mm, and this is the gold twist one that I've been using. So you could use, as I say, the varifocals with them. Sorry, varifocals. You could use seed beads or you could use crystals. I've been using crystals today just because it's jolly good fun, and I think, you know, why wouldn't you use crystals if you've got them? There we go. So these could be items. It could be the neck of the line of a necklace. So then you start, you know, you come down in a straight line like this, and then you curve around the bottom. Very Art Deco, very Angela says, wow, you're young. It depends on what day it is, really. Sometimes I feel younger than others, but you can start coming round and curving all the way up to make this the base of a neckline. Very Art Deco, very Cleopatra, very Egyptian. These crystals that I'm using here are 2x3. That is Lorna. So Tina says, thanks, I think this one's to have a go with. So just remember, Alison says, any reason to use crystals is a good reason. Yes, I do have quite a lot of crystals in my stash, but just remember that on one of them you're putting the crystal, so this sort of tight curve here, you're putting the crystal on after you've added the bugle. This side you're putting the crystal on as you add the bugle, and that means that this crystal will slip between those two bugle beads, so you will have basically a situation like that, because that will sit between, but this end, it sits on top. So you get that. And actually, you could end up, if you use different size crystals, obviously they would sit further in here, and you perhaps would get a tighter, a wider wave, because that would sit differently at the top. As I said, there are different ways of creating a wave. This is just one of them, and I personally like this one because I use the same beads top and bottom, so I don't need to have two different sizes. I can of course have different colors, but it doesn't mean that I have to have two different sizes of the same color to make it look even. So Joanne says crystals, yeah, or miracle beads. I love a miracle bead. I love anything with a little bit of sort of glitter in it. So I'm just having a look in my little bag, seeing if I've got some other size crystals. So, you know, these are slightly bigger crystals, and if you had those in between, those look about 4 mil to me. So, you know, that will actually give you a much sort of wider piece. But then have basically just have a play. That's what beading's about. And you will end up with a different look depending on what colour you go with, and what size beads you use, what size bugles. But I think we often underrate the common bugle. And this is just something that looks absolutely divine. You know, I don't know what I'm going to do with them. I need to get them finished and made into something. But so let's see. Angela says we'll need to go to do some work. Had a laugh today, thanks. Always lift the spirits. Well, we do our best. We do our best. So thank you very much for joining me again. It's always I love Wednesdays. It's always good fun to come and chat to you guys. So thank you very much for joining me, and thank you very much for commenting, and I hope you get to have a play with your bugle beads. Go and have a look at your stash, and go and have a look, as we've just looked at, the website, because those bugle beads with the silver line and the twist in them are absolutely stunning. They really do attract the eye. But then you can play with all sorts of bugle beads. So you all have a lovely day, and I will see you here next Wednesday. But obviously Kitty will be back much sooner than that. And then, as I said, there will be some days or some weeks in the month where I'm here twice. So I will see you soon. Anyway, thanks very much for joining me.